Mm. 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 Hello and welcome to another Whiskey Review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Great to be back, as always. Review number 51, part 11 of my series. A Baker's Dozen, look at a 13, 12-year-old Scottish single malts. And this time we're back in the Highlands with Glenmorangie, looking at the Lasanta, which is a 12-year-old Scottish single malt. Glenmorangie do tend to use a name rather than the actual age statement, but that's entirely up to them, isn't it? So what do I know about Glenmorangie? Usual stuff. Tallest stills in Scotland, distillery owned by LVMH, and all under the watchful eye of the director of distilling, Dr. Bill Lumsden. I don't know if you've ever actually watched or listened to Bill Lumsden, but I find him he's a very intriguing chap, quite eccentric, but I could listen to him very, very easily. So we're looking at the 12-year-old Lasanta, bottled at 43%, chill filtered, colour added, matured in ex-bourbon casks before being finished in ex-Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. So it's there's pretty much all your info. It sits around the 35 to 45 pound mark. So, on the nose, bold but balanced. Bold but very well balanced, I think. Sweet, juicy, fleshy fruits, some sweet like plum I'm getting. Quite a strong plum, which sits atop those usual sherry notes. The sherry notes are there, the raisins, the mixed pig, the fruitcake thing. But this fleshier, fruitier plum note sits on top of that. There's a quite thick, oily nose feel to it. But then there's a creaminess underneath that as well, like chocolate. Said pleasant, balanced, very enjoyable nose. I'm even getting spearmint note just round the outside edge of that now that it's there. It's just there no more. So onto the palate. Sweet and sour delivery. The palate carries through an awful lot of what's in that nose. Whereas I find a lot of whiskies, there'll be a balancing point somewhere between the nose and the palate. The nose in this remains strong throughout. So you're going in there, and whereas, say, once I've taken the first sip, onto the second sip, I tend to find then that, not that the palate is overriding the nose, but there's a balance somewhere at the back where the nose starts to quieten down a little. The palate comes up and a balance is found, whereas in this I find the nose remains strong throughout, so it's almost dictating to a certain extent what you're tasting all the time. And unfortunately, whereas that nose was so balanced, the palate tends to unbalance a little. That plum's still there, coming through. Those sherry notes are still there, but there is a like an oak spice in this, which is, it's, to me, is the catalyst. It's the one that's causing this to unbalance slightly. It's not falling apart. I was almost said falling apart there. It's not falling apart by any means in the palate. It just unbalances slightly. The creaminess is there, the oiliness is there, but there's just an oak spice which is causing it all to defragment, if that's a word, slightly. Brown sugar, yeah. Still a good, pleasant, enjoyable palate. The finish Finish is medium to long, quite spicy, cinnamon spice. But there's a lot. It actually brings quite a lot of flavour into the finish because there's orange, chocolate, and even a walnut kind of bitterness at the back of it. But very that walnut bitterness is very slight, but it's quite a nice flavour. As I say, the finish does actually, I like a lot. I like these whiskies that bring flavour with the finish. Too many whiskies, the finish is a sensation, as in it's bitter, it's sweet, it's peppery, it's something, but there's no flavour left. You're not left with a memory of it. This is a good example of one that brings a memory with it. Water does work on this. It does open up. It releases honey. It releases tobacco leaf and an older wood note. Yeah, and quite an orange actually. There's more orange coming through in the nose now. Palate softens, turns down that spiciness, so it does bring a little balance back to it. So there you go. There's your addition of your water, pulling balance back into this. Does help. But it also becomes slightly sweeter. Finish is shorter, but I've just noticed that with the addition of water, it's also less dry. It went dry pretty quick without the water, so it's less so now, less dry and tannic, more satisfying. So listen, I'm going to do, well, this comparison, this ain't a comparison, this is this is an experiment for myself. It's not a comparison, it's not an alternative, this is an experiment. Once again, we're looking at a Glenmorangie who, you know, this is a 10-year-old Glenmorangie. This isn't called the Glenmorangie 10-year-old. This is the Glenmorangie original, Lasanta, Quinta Rubin, etc., etc. You know, they do tend to like to use a name rather than an age statement. As I said earlier, up to them, isn't it? But this is just, as I say, more an experiment on my behalf, because I don't think I've ever had the 10 and the 12 beside each other. Okay, totally different maturations. 10-year-old, 12-year-old, so, you know, but the thing to remember, still the same spirit. So let's see, for shits and giggles, shall we, if that spirit stands out. I haven't even washed my palate, I haven't even rinsed my palate. Last thing I drank was this 12-year-old. Let's see if that spirit is there for the fun of it. Lovely. I haven't had the Glenmorangie 10 in a long time, and especially coming off something with a sherry finish on it. There's a lovely, fresh, peachy, orangey, fresh fruit note of it. Cut grass, freshly cut grass. I've already done a review for this. I'll throw a link up in here, but it was quite a while ago. Bottle of 40%. Remember, I've watered this down. I've brought this back to probably 40%. Much softer. But go from this, right, up to this, over to this, and now those sherry notes in the palate become so much more prominent. Naturally, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, of course they become more prominent, but this is a classic bourbon cask finish. So the sherry, this is just a finish, or bourbon maturation. It's quite amazing actually how much the sherry then stands out in this. Almost a triple distilled feel. Now remember, tall, thin stills. So you expect a lighter distillate, don't you? Yeah, definitely. The sherry now is the thing. I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody can tell me what length of time they do finish for in these sherry casks. I mean, are you talking that you get your standard 10 years? Are they taking basically what is a 10-year-old, the original, and then finishing it for a couple of years and Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez cask? I don't know. But it certainly has had its effect on this. In no bad way. It doesn't do any harm every now and again just to take a glass of something sweet and light and then try something sherried and heavy along with it, just to pull out those rich, thick flavours. Only a suggestion. Anyway. As I say, this sells for around £35 to £45 mark. I think I picked this up relatively cheaply, and you see if you can get it at the right price, even around the £40 mark. I would recommend this. 43%, so it's not, it even feels slightly better than that, even feels in and around some of the 46s I've had. So yeah, I would recommend this. If you can get it, do so. There you go. That's pretty much the end of this. I'm going to leave the Glenmorangie Lasanta at that. Say thank you once again for joining me. Thank you to my patrons. If you wish to join that Patreon group, the details are in the bit below. Until the next time, my friends, here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.